Hello everyone, my name is Jacob Furr, and in today's video I will be talking about one of the most infamous disasters in engineering history, the Chernobyl nuclear accident. This was not just an accident, it was the result of human error, design flaw, and the lack of safety culture. It changed the lives of hundreds of thousands of people, and it permanently changed the way engineers approach safety, ethics, and responsibility. My goal in today's video is to walk you through three main areas. First, the mistakes that led to the disaster. Second, the remedies that were put in place to prevent future disasters. And finally, how the event transformed the field of engineering. On April 26, 1986, in the early hours, reactor number 4 at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Pripyat, Ukraine exploded. This was the worst nuclear accident in human history. The blast and fire released enormous amounts of radiation into the environment. To give you an idea of scale, it released about 400 times more radioactive material than the atomic bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima. Entire communities had to be abandoned, and the health consequences are still being felt today. But to truly understand why it happened, we need to look at the background of the reactor and the decisions that led to its explosion. The type of reactor used at Chernobyl was called an RBMK 1000, which is the picture on the right. It was unique to the Soviet Union. Well, it produced a lot of power, it had a dangerous flaw. It was unstable at low power levels. In other words, it wasn't handled correctly. It would suddenly surge in energy output. On top of this, the Soviet Union at the time valued secrecy and speed over safety. The culture discouraged engineers from speaking up even if they noticed risks. This combination, an unstable design and a weak safety culture, set the stage for a disaster. Now for the mistakes. The disaster happened during a late night safety test. The idea was simple. They wanted to know if the reactor turbines could keep generating enough power to cool the reactor in case of a blackout. But the way the test was carried out was anything but safe. First, operators brought the reactor's power down too low, which made it unstable. Second, they turned off multiple automatic safety systems to prevent them from interrupting their tests. Third, poor communication and pressure to complete the tests led them to continue, even though conditions were unsafe. Finally, at 1:23 a.m., the operators pressed a shutdown button. Because of a flaw in the reactor's design, instead of shutting down the power spiked dramatically. The reactor exploded, blowing off a 10-ton lid and exposed the nuclear core to open air. The immediate effects were catastrophic. Two workers died instantly from the blast. Firefighters rushed in without protective gear, many unaware of the radiation they were facing. Over the next few weeks, about 28 emergency workers and plant staff died from acute radiation sickness. 4 days, a radioactive fire burned, spreading radiation into the sky. The Soviet Union initially tried to cover it up. It wasn't until radiation alarms went off in Sweden, which is over 600 miles away, that the world realized something terrible had happened. Eventually, more than 100,000 people were evacuated from Pripyat and the surrounding town. To this day, those towns remain banned. The long-term impact of Chernobyl has been profound. Radioactive materials contaminating large parts of Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia, and even spread across Europe. Thousands of children developed thyroid cancer from drinking contaminated milk. Farmers lost their land, and their families were faced to leave everything behind. The 30-kilometer exclusion zone around the reactor is still unsafe for permanent human life nearly 40 years later. Beyond the physical damage, there was also a psychological toll. Fear of radiation, mistrust in government, and the stigma carried by survivors. Chernobyl became a system of what happens when engineers, politics, and secrecy mix in a dangerous way. In the aftermath, the nuclear industry worldwide had to make major changes. First, the International Atomic Energy Agency established stricter new safety standards. Plants had to share information openly about accidents or risks, something that had not been done before. Second, reactor designs were improved. Many modern reactors include passive safety systems, which means they can shut down safely without human intervention or external power. For example, if cooling water stops flowing, the reactor is designed to shut itself off automatically. Third, training the emergency preparedness were completely overhauled. Operations now undergo rigorous drills to practice responding to emergencies. Communication protocols were standardized so that orders could not be misunderstood or misused. Finally, Chernobyl led to a cultural shift towards transparency. Today, when even small issues occur at nuclear power plants, they are reported internationally. This openness prevents small mistakes from becoming big disasters. Chernobyl changed the world of engineering forever. It made clear that engineering is not just about machines or technology. It's about people, ethics, and responsibility. Engineers had to start thinking more carefully about human factors, how stress, fatigue, or poor training can lead to catastrophic mistakes. It also led to physical changes in plant designs. Many nuclear reactors built since then include massive concrete containment domes, something Chernobyl did not have. These domes can prevent radioactive material from escaping, even if there is an explosion inside. And finally, Chernobyl forced engineers across all fields, not just nuclear, to ask themselves tough questions. Are we building systems that fail safely? Are we protecting people first? Do we have the courage to speak up when something seems wrong? These questions form the foundation of modern engineering ethics. In summary, the mistakes that led to Chernobyl were not just a single action, but a chain of poor decisions, unsafe designs, and a culture that ignored safety warnings. The remedies, new international standards, safer reactor designs, and better training put in place to prevent such disasters from happening again. The most lasting change was in engineering itself. Chernobyl reminded us that engineering carries a huge responsibility. Every design, every decision, and every safety precaution matters because people's lives are at stake. Almost 40 years later, the lesson of Chernobyl still guides us. It stands as a powerful reminder that technology must serve humanity and that safety must also come first. Thank you for watching.